Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of A Lot About Nothing. My name is Scott.
My name is Mike.
And first off, we just want to thank everybody who's been listening to us. We really appreciate the views. Other than that, we're going to get into this topic. And the topic of today's episode is...
Princess Doe.
Yes, that sounds kind of weird, but in this episode, we decided to look into a cold case. I actually was looking up cold cases somewhat local to our area. And it turns out that the Princess Doe case, some of you guys might have actually heard of before. I never did, but maybe you guys have. Before we get into the actual story, Princess Doe is obviously unidentified. Doe being the moniker that police agencies and law enforcement agencies gives to unidentified persons, unknown persons, things such as that. You have John Doe for males and Jane Doe.
Jane Doe, yes.
Jane Doe for females. And so that's where the whole Princess Doe comes in. Mike, have you ever heard of this story?
I did not until we started to research it.
Yeah, so it turns out that there's a lot of stuff about this case that makes it really interesting. One being that this is the first case that was ever entered into the National Unidentified / Missing Persons database from the FBI. It's an FBI program that they have. So with that being said, I did pull up a article that I liked the way that it put into words her story of how she was found and everything. It's from the Long Island Press, written by Jacqueline Gallucci, and this is from a few years ago. I just want to give her a little plug real quick. She'll never end up seeing this, but you never know. In the back of a small roadside cemetery under the arms of a giant maple tree in rural New Jersey, she stands, her back toward the steep ravine, the sound of running water below, and birds calling back and forth above. Her skirt rustles in the breeze on this warm and sunny summer day. Her t-shirt is stained and torn. Strangers stare at her, taking pictures. She doesn't say a word. This headless mannequin, dressed in red, standing erect among the headstones, is an eerie sight from the busy state road that borders the Cedar Ridge Cemetery in this small township of nearly 6,000 people. Here in Blairstown, everyone seems to know each other. Police, business owners, neighbors. Everyone except for the teenage girl found barefoot, partially clothed, and beaten beyond recognition the morning of July 15th, 1982. So, we'll take a break real quick. We'll kind of break that down. Imagine working at a cemetery already. I mean...
which is already creepy enough.
Yeah, you're going to be cutting grass and whatnot. You stumble upon a dead body that's out open in nature.
In the cemetery. My first thought would have been like, this person crawled out of their grave. Yeah, that would have been my first thought.
Didn't dig deep enough.
I know, another runaway.
Yeah, obviously you could tell that, I guess we'll kind of, I don't know if we got into it yet, but she was beaten very badly, almost to the point beyond recognition. It had been a while since they believed that she had died, so there was some decaying that happened. It could not have been a pretty sight at all, especially considering you could tell that she was young. The estimated age is between 14 and 18.
14 and 18, and the temperature outside was hot and humid, and they think she was out there for a week or 3, so anywhere in between the week and 3-week period.
So back to the article, in quotations, she was erased, says retired Blairstown Police Lieutenant Eric Kranz, who first responded to the scene. Her assailant erased her. There was nothing left to her. Whoever did this did it with a vengeance. Found with her skull literally smashed into pieces, her face was so violently battered that the medical examiner couldn't determine her eye color. Today, she is brought back to life as detectives dressed a plastic replica of her body in the original clothes she was wearing the morning a cemetery worker spotted the crucifix tangled in her hair among the dirt and rocks covering the bank. Just yards away from where the still shocked and baffled town buried her 30 years ago. Now more than 100 locals are gathered here for Princess Doe's grim anniversary. We are kind of from this area, so we kind of are familiar with some of these small towns. And anytime there's a death, like murder is not a very common thing here.
No, never.
You might think we're from New Jersey. Apparently, I heard in one of these articles it says there's so many unsolved murders and missing people. I don't see that. We especially don't see it around our area. And Blairstown is one of those areas that they don't see it. I could only imagine having a case like that. I mean, we did have a violent crime. I'm not sure if you were on the first aid squad yet, when we did have a stabbing.
I was not.
Yeah, so that was like the most recent violent crime. Like, we don't see a lot of violent crime all the time.
And that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I can't imagine just, again, driving by the local town cemetery and stumbling upon that site. I could only imagine.
So what I think is weird about it is that no family spoke up and said, "Hey, my daughter's missing," or anything like that.
As in, she was found in an area where she would have been like, you would think somebody would come forward if they knew her.
Anywhere, even if she came from another state, like, how do you, like, do you have family that would be concerned that you're missing, like your friends or anything?
Yeah, you would think that there would be. You would think that it would get out there some way, and I understand. You might not think sometimes a story like this would get out from a small town because it's a small town. They might not have the biggest outreach, but this case actually made national news. It still actually makes national news. It's been on CNN in like the 2010s. HBO did a special on it. Again, this was the first case in the FBI's missing persons database. Like, that's an overstatement.
Yeah, they actually used this case to teach new FBI recruits or detectives, I guess.
FBI recruits. It's a case in the Quantico Academy. They have to learn about it because it kind of gets into how it's the first case that has been brought in. It's basically the first case in the entire country.
Yeah,
that was added to that database. And I also, it's just weird. Not only that it didn't happen, I could understand if it took a while. But we're talking about this now. She was found in 1982. We're talking about it in 2020. And still, there's nobody that has claimed her. And the longer it goes, the
less chances there are.
Yeah, the less chances are that anybody can claim her and talk. And there are a lot of different theories out there about who it could actually be. We'll kind of get into that a little bit more as evidence comes up. There are certain theories as to possible missing persons that this young female could be. But again, we'll get into that.
It's a mystery that intrigued law enforcement, the media, and the locals alike. Her story has been subject of books, TV specials, spurred unidentified and missing person movements, and inspired landmark legislation across the nation. She was the first unidentified crime victim to be entered into the FBI's National Crime Information Center, or NCIC, database. Still, the victim detectives call Princess Doe remains a girl without a name. So the whole reason that you're getting Princess Doe instead of Jane Doe is because she was so young. The detectives wanted to give her something different, not just another Jane Doe. They really wanted to solve this case, being in a small town with not that many people, and the fact that she was so young.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I quoted it, if it was quoted already in this article. It was Lieutenant Eric Kranz, who was the first responder. When he was doing the investigation, I do believe it was him that gave that name to her, and that's actually one of the key reasons that this case was picked up and so well published everywhere.
Because the Jane Doe.
Because
the Princess Doe.
Princess Doe, not the Jane Doe. So again, I said this article actually comes from Long Island Press, which there's actually a reason that we're getting into. They made a lot of progress in this investigation, and we'll get into what that progress is. But while this cemetery is 117 miles away from the Nassau County line, detectives believe the clues to the identity of their most famous Jane Doe was very likely from Long Island. Her name is made up of more numbers than letters. Depending on what database you look in, Princess Doe is officially known as U630870962, 1513, 36 UFNJ, or NJF820715. A lot of great names there.
Agent 47.
When I had Agent 007. Oh my God, that's it.
What?
She's James Bond.
Oh, obviously. How could we overlook that?
How could? Duh, man. We're so smart. Anyway, she is one of the 8,528 documented nameless dead entered by medical examiners and coroners across the country into the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, or NAMUS. When I first read this article, I wanted to say Name Us, but it's not quite Name Us. So it's NAMUS database, a similar but not all-inclusive version of the NCIC available to the public. Those outside of New Jersey might never have heard of Princess Doe at all if it weren't for the detective who refused to let her be another number in a pool of thousands. Instead of calling her Jane Doe, he nicknamed her Princess Doe. After all, at some point in time, she must have been someone's little girl.
That goes back to the whole point of wanting to
Get it?
wanting to be out there.
The more publicized a case can be, the more attention it will grab, and the more possibilities for at least not answers, but input from other people that might have some answers.
Like
here
more
and there.
leads.
Yeah, leads, exactly. And that's what they had. I think there was a part, there's like, they had like 800 something leads or something. Here's a quote from the detective Kranz. He says, "I knew this was going to be tough. So what I did was I tried to separate her from all the other Jane and John Does and give her a personality of sorts. I got a mannequin and dressed it in her clothes." And that kind of refers to, again, this article is actually from Anniversary. I think the article said it in the beginning too.
Yeah.
Where it's like a very morbid anniversary, a dark anniversary, but in order to draw more attention and see if they couldn't get more answers, they actually dressed up a mannequin in similar clothes as to what she was wearing when she was found. I think it was
her exact clothes.
I don't think it was her clothes, because those had probably filed away in evidence and been also torn apart. Not torn apart, but for evidence, apart, gone through. So they probably wouldn't do that. They did this in order to even grab even more attention. Because again, it's been over 30 years, almost 40 years, coming up in 2022. Yes, we'll still be on the air. In 2022, that would be the 40th anniversary. So that is just kind of crazy to think of, the fact that there's still cold cases this old. And the main reason we wanted to do this as an episode, just a little bit of a side note, I think that cold cases, number one, are interesting for entertainment purposes, but I also feel like the more people that share these stories, the more people that get it out. You might look at somebody like me. I had never actually heard of this case, yet I watch a lot of cold case stuff. I like that investigation area. So while there might be a bunch of you who have already heard about this case, there might also not be. And I think that is what the main goal of these cold cases should be: finding a cold case and sharing it with other people, because other people might either know some answers, have some leads, or be able to connect with somebody who does have leads or answers and stuff such as that. So back to this case. With this case, there's a lot of theories out there. One of them being online is actually in this article, and this one, because I feel like there's two different types of theories. There's substantiated theories based off of what witnesses have said, or people that are more closely tied to the case, or even accused of the case, versus the conspiracy theories and the theories that have no, as of right now, substantial foundations for those theories. But that would be something like, oh, there's this missing person from over here, and they're almost the same height and weight that was found. So I think that there's a little bit of a difference. But this one that we're about to read, again, this is out of the same article, is one where there was actually somebody that was accused of this case, and the police actually did investigate it as a lead. And while it's not conclusive, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Back in the early 80s, longtime pimp Arthur Kinlaw, who moved between Central Islip, again, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, even though I've lived in New Jersey, but it is what it is, Central Islip, Green Lawn, and Bellport, ran a prostitution ring in Hunts Point, sending women who he would pick up in Suffolk County to sell themselves, said his wife, Donna Kinlaw, in an October 10th, 1999 Newsday article. In addition to the Hunts Point prostitution business, the couple allegedly traveled the country as far as Alaska, committing all sorts of crimes, from burglary to welfare fraud, each of them accumulating dozens of arrests. In June of 1998, Arthur and Donna were arrested in California after Donna allegedly used Elena, the name of one of Arthur's former Long Island prostitutes, to forge welfare papers, the article recounts. When detectives tracked down the real Elena, she gave detectives their biggest lead to date in the Princess Doe investigation. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. This is where the music, if I knew how to edit it in, would start playing. Boom, boom. The Law and Order. Dun dun. According to the Newsday piece and published reports in other New York metropolitan newspapers, Elena allegedly told detectives how Arthur, with Donna's help, drugged, strangled, and beat a woman Elena knew only as Linda. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, oh my God, they know the name, Linda. This is a different girl, but it kind of it adds to the theory. So there's actually, the way this article breaks down, there's 2 other murders, and then it gets into the Princess Doe one. So in this case, it was the Linda, who was a teenager. He'd met in a Bayshore reggae bar called Blackberry Jam. Shout out to Blackberry Jam. All my, you know where I'm at. Now a church, which is kind of random.
Plot twist.
Yeah, the old reggae bar, Blackberry Jam. Now a church in April 1984. She reportedly said he'd struck Linda in the head with an aluminum baseball bat on a dark dirt road in Hunts Point when she refused to work as a prostitute for him. He then drove her body to an area near the New York City Department of Sanitation yard on Zarega Avenue, wrapped her in an old shower curtain, and dumped her in the East River. Pretty basic stuff. I mean, definitely low-level crime at best. So this guy's already being accused of bad shit. And again, the person alleging him is his wife, so you could take that either 2 ways. She's like, wow, this son of a bitch, I'm going to bury him. Or she's trying to actually save her ass and is telling the truth.
Which is kind of leaning towards that a little bit.
But even the fact that she has such a close relationship with this person, this doesn't seem like a whole press thing. And I'll get into, like, you could think, oh, it's his wife, she's not going to get in trouble, she's just saying it to get press attention, whatever. She was actually accused for this next one. So the decomposed body of Linda, who was white, 5 feet 4 inches tall, about 130 pounds, with shoulder-length dark brown hair, washed up weeks later and remains unidentified to this day. Unidentified, like, yes, they know the name Linda from the story, but they don't know her true identity, so that's why she's still unidentified. Arthur described details of 1984 slaying in his appearance in Bronx Supreme Court in 2000, according to Newsday, but neither he nor his wife would be connected to the murders of the 3 other women, including Princess Doe, until Donna, in a bid to save herself from a life in prison over her part in Linda's murder, squealed to police. So that's the important thing. She didn't just do it because, she might have... You can't say she told the truth or not, but
she had to save herself.
She had a reason to tell the truth. It's not like they were just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try and get famous. I'm going to go talk to the newspaper, stop the press, I'm going to share this story just so I can get on TV and stuff. But she kind of had either a reason to lie, but also a reason to tell the truth. She reportedly told detectives that in 1983, Arthur beat to death a 300-pound disabled boarder they had taken into their Bellport home to help pay the bills. That was a black or Hispanic woman in her 20s or 30s who relied on crutches to walk. So these guys are really nice, just killing people out of there. So that's just nice. With this one, he dragged the woman out of the backyard, Michigan Avenue home, where he buried her in a makeshift grave before pouring a cement patio over her.
So, long story, she was handicapped. He beat her to death, dragged her outside, dug a hole and buried her in it, and then poured a concrete patio over her.
Yeah.
Over her.
And the police found that body.
Yes.
So,
because of Arthur's wife, the police found this body. So the police went and dug up the patio and actually found her.
That is correct. And even more incriminating. Again, there's a lot of possibilities, but because she already has one that has been confirmed, one of her her stories that she's told have been confirmed, that makes it even more easy to believe her.
Yes.
So, again, there was a couple other females, one of which Donna was actually facing those charges for. So that's the reason why she squealed, again. Already said that in the article. But here's where it gets into our Princess Doe case. Donna Kinlaw, Kiplaw. Sorry. But anyway, Donna claimed that in July of that year, Arthur brought home a girl who was about 18 years old, left with her, then came back alone, cleaned out his car, and dumped his clothing, according to the Newsday story. Weeks later, during an argument between them, Donna said Arthur admitted to Princess Doe's murder, reports the article. He told me if I didn't go to work, he would do to me what he did to the other girl. Newsday quotes Donna as saying, in the middle of the arguing, I said, well, what did you do to the other girl? He said, I'll take your life just like I took hers, which is a very direct point to make. He didn't even try and cover that up.
Nope.
So that's when I was reading this article, that's where I found it kind of suspicious. Like, oh, I don't know if he'd be that direct. Like, whatever. But again, if he's a pimp, you never know. I mean, like, yeah, shut up.
So, yeah, obviously him and his wife are in this together.
Yeah, they're not a great couple.
No.
Like it stated before, they were both had rap sheets a mile long. But again, it didn't say for murder, but obviously now it's just because those cases are unidentified girls, unfortunately, get tied into the whole prostitution ring, either because they need to make money or they get sex trafficked and they just get stuck in that field. This is a quote from the detective. This is from Detective Spears. He said, "Let's put it in this way. I can't use the word confession. He made some admissions. I'll put it in these terms. He claimed responsibility for her death, but I have no physical evidence to confirm that. And without the identity of Princess Doe, I have no way of connecting the dots, so to speak, putting her in a place where he could have been or would have been at the same time. That's the unfortunate thing right now. The key thing is to identify her. If we could identify her, then I can try to verify the information Arthur Kinlaw has provided." Arthur also told Spears something Donna had neglected to mention, that she was in the Blairstown cemetery and witnessed Arthur allegedly beating Princess Doe to death. He tells the press, when Spears later confronted her with Arthur's accusations, the detectives says Donna admitted she saw the young girl murdered and helped a forensic artist create a composite sketch of Princess Doe.
Now,
but was it all true?
Now remember, Donna so far has been truthful.
So far, Donna has been truthful and has showed no reason other than the fact that she's a criminal that she can't be trusted.
Yeah.
So again, you have to
look at it how you want. But
yeah, and the rest of this article kind of goes into all of it goes into a little bit more of like the story of a couple of the other girls that these two have been accused of murdering and some of their quotes and stuff. But the main point that the article makes at the end that I think is important to bring up is the fact that because obviously nowadays with criminal cases, they're able to be investigated a lot easier, or hopefully solved a lot easier with DNA evidence. I know there's a lot of I wouldn't even say 50-50. DNA allows a lot of things to get answered, but it also creates a messy situation because DNA has become such a guaranteed conviction. Like either
scapegoat.
It's either a yes or a no, and that's what it's become. I think they kind of jumped to that conclusion very quickly of being either a yes or a no, because DNA can really tie somebody to the scene, but it could also tie somebody who has nothing to do with the crime to the same scene. Mm-hmm. So I think that the only reason DNA has had its issues is because people relied on it too much.
Because of its accuracy.
Yeah, because of its accuracy, it kind of countered itself in its own way. So with the DNA testing in today's world being the way it is, and this was actually a few years ago, this article was from, they sent DNA from Princess Doe to the FBI facility and the FBI labs, and they ran tests, and they were waiting to get results. And that's where this article ends. Fortunately, it's been some time since this article was written, and then there's a follow-up article.
And if you're wondering why they didn't do this in the beginning, this technology wasn't really around.
This technology, well, especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
DNA was known of, and like people knew DNA was something, but they had not figured out the process in order to get DNA and use it to compare
against someone.
Yeah, use it against somebody.
To hold them to a crime.
Yeah, and also, even at this time, even if they did have DNA technology, it wouldn't have had much of a history in order to even carry any weight, so to speak. Anyway, back to the... No, so, again, the other article ends off because the DNA that they did send in to get processed via new DNA techniques was not... The results had not come back yet from that, but they did a follow-up article from the same Long Island Press, and it's from the same writer. They got the results back, and right from the get-go, first paragraph, new tests performed on hair and tooth samples taken from the body of Princess Doe. The unidentified young woman found to be the unanimous world champion of... I started talking like a boxing announcer. New tests performed on hair and tooth samples taken from the body of Princess Doe, the unidentified young woman found beaten to death in a New Jersey cemetery in 1982. Oh, man.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Princess Doe. Coming out of Arizona, more recently, living in Long Island, weighing in at 110 pounds. She's the fury-fisted, one-handed jabber. So the next article, the follow-up article, it begins with new tests performed on hair and tooth samples taken from the body of Princess Doe, who's the unidentified young woman found beaten to death in the New Jersey cemetery in 1982, suggests that she spent time in the Long Island area prior to her death and was likely originally from Arizona, which is huge because, again, DNA, it carries a lot of weight, but it answers a lot of questions that no other process would be able to answer because they would have not been able to get the whole Arizona. And it's actually interesting how they do it. It looks into what their diet has been, and it looks at, like, for the dental, when they look into the dental DNA, it looks into what their diet was for a certain amount of time beforehand. So I'm going to try and find it in here.
I still think it's crazy that no one filed a missing persons report.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that because, again, I don't think it's necessarily, it might not, well, yes, it could be somebody not filing a missing persons report, but it could also be having a missing persons report filed and not being able to connect the dots. Because if you
tracing it to Jersey.
Because in this case, this girl, she is most likely from Arizona originally. If she went missing from Arizona, which would make sense if she jumped from Arizona to New Jersey, Long Island, that's how you go missing. To do that, she could have been reported as missing, but nobody was able to make that connection.
It's not like they're finding every dead body and tracing everyone in the world.
Exactly. And there's websites like this one. Princess Doe was put on the what was it? Unidentified persons NCIC, whatever it is, from the FBI. Just like there is a database for these unidentified persons, there's also a database for the missing persons reports. If you go to the Doe Network online, you can just search it in. The Doe Network actually has an archive that has a lot of missing person cases on there, and it gives some of the basic information. So, hey, if you're looking for a missing person, maybe you could report it on there. But if you're just interested and want to go through it, it's very interesting because it does give you a little bit of information, and you get to see how crazy these numbers are in terms of the amount of missing people.
A lot of people.
So anyway, and it separates it by state and all that. But so where was I? So this is what I'm about to read is a quote from Lieutenant Stephen Spears. He said, "We know that from 10 months to 7 months prior to her death, she lived in a particular region of the United States, which they refer to as Region 1, which covers a good portion of the Northeast and some of the Midwest," said Spears regarding the hair sample testing. And then, at approximately 7 months to 5 months, what we discovered was that she was definitely transient. She went from one particular region of the United States to another, which is Region 2. And for the last 5 months, she was in Region 2 of the United States, which puts her in the Northeast area. Spears said one of the Princess Doe's teeth was also sent out for isotope testing, which gave investigators an idea of where she spent her early life. We've determined that there's a potential she could have come from the Midwest area, meaning, quite honestly, Arizona is what we're focusing on right now. Personally, I don't know how the fuck Arizona is in the Midwest, but that's what these very highly trained professionals are saying, so we'll go with it. But it seems to be a definite Arizona. Whether or not they meant to say Midwest, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Arizona being referred to as the Midwest? Neither have I, so I don't know. But anyway, they with this new DNA, they're able to come to some answers. As of right now, it's not. They haven't actually made an identity. Still to this day, they have not found an identity of this girl, which is their main goal, really. I don't think they care too much at this point about I mean, they care about putting the person who did it behind, or getting justice for her.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more about as a respect thing of getting her identity figured out.
Identifying her.
Identifying her is probably the number one, and if they can't do anything other than that, I think that they'd be happy. But the rest of this article kind of goes into where they did the DNA testing and all that. But fortunately, now with this whole DNA, and as new techniques become available, it might still be able to, she might still be able to be identified, which is always a positive. Continuing on, there's a bunch of other theories, as I was saying. One being there was a girl that had gone missing from the New York area, but they even checked DNA. Or no, there's a California girl that went missing. I can't remember her name right now, but it's not even worth mentioning because she was ruled out. They were able to rule out some of those like cases that you might hear from people like, oh, this person went missing around this time, and they kind of match this, and then there was a bunch of them ruled out by DNA now that they have the DNA and stuff. One of the individuals, I'm not saying that I believe that this, I am now going to share my thought as to what the most plausible possible theory is. And this is because I had seen the name floated around as theories, but I went in to do my own research and I searched up missing persons from Arizona. And I found the website.
It's a very broad search.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm on an FBI watch list now, especially because I was searching up all these different murder cases and information. Maybe I shouldn't have thrown in how to hide a dead body, but I figured it'd be funny. You know what I mean?
You got to get inside the mind of a killer.
You got to get inside the mind of a killer. Yeah, so don't go behind the woods of my house. Oh, shit. Anyway, I went to Google and I searched missing persons of Arizona or whatever. And the doenetwork.org page showed up. And that's where I went into Arizona. And I looked at all the dates in between just because I was like, you know what, might as well give it a shot. And the one I clicked, which by category is case number 1354 DFAZ. Her name is Amy Marie Yakimic. It's just more fun to say it like that. You can actually go onto this website as well and read this information. It has a bunch of pictures of the last time she was seen, and actually for some other individuals it has her age, like what she's believed to have looked like after age has been added. In this case, she doesn't. It doesn't look like she has had that done, but it does have images. So her name, like I said, is Amy Marie Yakimic. Missing since November 6, 1981. Last seen in Phoenix, Maricopa County, Arizona. Physical description. Her date of birth, it doesn't even matter. Her age, she was 13 years old when she went missing. She's white. She's a female. Her height's 5'3", close to the 5'2". Weight, 105 pounds, close to 110 pounds. Her hair color was brown. Eye color was blue. Distinguished marks/features. Ears are pierced.
And back to Princess Doe.
I can read the description in 1 second.
Every time you read about it, it said that her ears were pierced.
And
I don't know why I don't know if that's a common thing with missing people, but for some reason it mentions that her ears are pierced all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of naming physical descriptions that could be shared. Any physical description. But so here's the description. Here, I'm going to read a description. Am I reading the same description I just read, or am I reading a new one?
This is Princess Doe's.
Okay. I was going to do it as like a little fun thing, like whose am I reading, Anyway, so yeah, this is Princess Doe. Her estimated age was 14 to 18 years, which, what's her name? Amy, she was 13. Amy was 13 years old, so close. Approximate weight, 110 pounds, which approximate, so 105 pounds is close. Approximate height, 5'2".
Close.
5 foot, yeah, it's right there. Hair color, medium brown, shoulder length. Caucasian, non-Hispanic, white. Eye color, unknown, so that's still an open possibility. Again, she was beaten beyond recognition, so that's kind of what sucks. Anyway, back to DNA and fingerprints or available dentals. Both ears were pierced, left ear twice. So her ears were pierced as well. So, to say that those two descriptions are not alike would do it a disjustice. And also, if you click on one of the pictures, in our case, in my on my laptop, I pulled up a picture of her, and when you click onto the one article that has pictures of like the 3D imaging of what her skull would have looked like at the time she died, if you compare those two, again, that's the Princess Doe with the Amy Marie Yakimic, you see a resemblance. If I could click on the great God.
we got so many tabs open.
So, Mike.
Yes.
What is your opinion when I go from this to this? Actually, I'm going to go the other way because this one's a little bit smaller. So, this to this. Ready?
It's like the eye doctor. This one.
Or this one. One or two. All right, ready? One or two.
So you could definitely see a resemblance.
One or two.
Yeah. Can I see one again?
One or two. Oh, shit, that was three. Fuck. Two.
All right, so they definitely have the same face structure, kind of.
Yeah, I can see it. When I first looked at pictures, I see it in the chin. One of the noticeable descriptions that it looks like from the sketch of Princess Doe was that she has a very small mouth. And by small, I mean like narrow. It's just not...
It's just small.
Yeah, it's just small. It's a small mouth. It's kind of weird to hear the description, but you'll look up and you'll see it. It's very small. So, man, they could edit this out of context, and it's very small. It's really, really small. So small, barely even see it. So, cheek bones. All right, I'm not a very good descriptor in terms of like facial features.
You know what it is? It's a combination of her pointy chin, not pointy chin, of her narrow chin and her thin lips.
I mean,
that's probably sounds worse.
No, she has a small mouth, thin lips. Guys, this is how we have to describe her, man. This is the only way to describe her.
FBI, for listening,
yeah.
You can hire us.
Yeah. You can come pick us up. We're at... So, anyway, but the reason I find that one to be the most interesting in terms of possibilities is because she was last seen in Phoenix.
This is so old, there's not even an email available. Did you see that?
Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Isn't that interesting? Oh, yeah, there is. Oh, no, there's not. I guess. Well, if you want to fucking fax to people, because everybody has fax machines. But that's pretty much it for my case. There isn't much about the Amy Marie Yakimic. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. I don't think it's worth going into her whole case because, frankly, that could make this episode be a lot longer. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this subject in terms of I don't think there's any more that we could
really
go in on because I think we kind of did our best job at doing it without overdoing it. So one thing I do want to mention, Mike, you said it yourself in terms of there are so many of these cases out there. And for that reason, I do look forward to doing more cold case research for different cases, not only around here, but around the country, because it is a very interesting topic, and I think it's a necessary thing to be done. People go missing every day, and that kind of goes into what our missing 401 is. Only this is just everywhere, not just in the wilderness and stuff like that. This actually happens in the middle of everything. Like, on the middle of the street, a busy street, somebody can go missing, and they might never be found again. So, in this specific case for Princess Doe, while I highly doubt there's a possibility, if there is anybody out there that is listening to this podcast that has a tip or knows something about this case that they think needs to be shared with police, the tip number for the Princess Doe case is 1-866-942-6467. Again, that's 1-866-942-6467. Again, that's a tip line for the Princess
Messaging
Doe.
and data rates apply.
Messaging and data rates apply. May apply. So anyway, that is going to do it for this episode of A Lot About Nothing. But before we do say goodbye, I do want to talk a little bit about the podcast and just, number one, thank everybody that has tuned in and listened to us. Me and Mike really appreciate it. We hope that we're able to keep doing this for you guys because we're not going to stop. We enjoy it. We truly do enjoy it. If you guys have any suggestions or any comments of topics that you want us to talk about, like I said, we don't narrow ourselves down to any specific subject points. So if you guys have a suggestion, we'd love to hear it. You could either comment on one of our Instagram posts. Our Instagram we do have is A Lot About Nothing.
YouTube.
And well, A Lot About Nothing and all. Just I want to sum this up on all of our social media and everything. A lot, and my sister pointed this out, which kind of pissed me off. She's like, "It's not spelled right." I know. A lot is supposed to be 2 words. A space lot for grammatical reasons. I did not care. So I put it as 1 so it could just be AAN and not ALAN. Alan. We do the Alan podcast. So that is why.
Please stop telling us it's spelled wrong.
Stop fucking telling me. Yeah, it's not spelled wrong. I intentionally made that grammatical error. That's what I told all my teachers. They didn't believe me either. But anyway, our Instagram is A Lot About Nothing. We have a Facebook page, also A Lot About Nothing. YouTube channel is A Lot About Nothing. SoundCloud, you can find us at A Lot About Nothing. But I just wanted to clear that up and basically say that at the end of the episode. And again, thank you. You could go into any of our posts. If you have a suggestion, leave it down there. We really would love to make episodes that you guys want too. But other than that, thank you to everybody that's been watching. Thank you to everybody that's going to be watching. And thanks for the support. Make sure to either like it, subscribe, like one of our posts on social media, just so we can get like the feedback. We really appreciate the feedback that we have gotten, and we'd love to keep getting it just so we can see how many of you guys are enjoying our content. If you guys leave comments about what kind of topics you want, we just want that interaction, and we'd love to be able to use that. So with nothing else to say here, Mike, unless you have something to say.
No.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, this has been another episode of A Lot About Nothing. My name is Scott.
My name is Mike.
Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.